Hey, this is Sean in St. Louis, and welcome to the Marketing Gateway. And as always, we have such an amazing interview for you today. I really loved talking to Zane Creek, who you're going to get to meet in a moment. And Zane is an SEO specialist, and I'm going to talk about this in the show, but I met him last year, and he left a big impression on me, so I'm so glad to be able to have him on. He is at the Timmerman Group, and he'll show you. He's got a shirt on where he's gonna remind us of that a few times because he's really proud of what he does there. And I didn't know until I was doing the interview that he and I went to the same high school. So that's really cool because I grew up in the Metro East, and I never get to ask the St. Louis question, which is, where did you go to high school? So you get to ask it in this interview. Really excited. We're gonna have a lot of fun with this one because Zane is full of marketing knowledge. He's going to tell us all about SEO and help us to understand what it is. But I'll tell you also that he got to live in Germany for a while and work there. He is a full stack marketer. He's currently thinking about SEO every day, and he's going to even provide us with some resources that are in the show notes that you can use to learn more about it yourself. And beyond that, he also has marketing resources that he's built that are also in the show notes. So again, you're going to love this interview. Enjoy. Well, welcome back to the Marketing Gateway. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and I've got with me Zane Creek. And Zane, I met you last year at the AMA conference that we had at Webster University, and I remember being super impressed with you. And let me just say why, because you reminded me of myself when I was in college, because you were such a go-getter. You were there to meet people, and you were talking about these marketing resources that you built, and you just came off as somebody who was really interested in not just landing a job, but really pursuing and advancing the craft of marketing. So I was so glad to meet you then, and I told you at some point we'd have to connect, and here we are. So thanks for being
No, I
on.
appreciate that. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that, Sean. I was so glad to hear from you because I felt the exact same way when I met you at the conference. And so, yeah, I was pleased to be able to reconnect with you and join you here, talk a little bit.
Well, fantastic. Well, it's always good when there's mutual admiration. And
Yeah.
I like to begin by asking every guest to tell me something surprising that I don't know. So here you go. Tell me something surprising.
Yeah. I was thinking about it because I touched on the fact that I've gone to Germany, and so that's a big deal. But another big thing that is a surprise to you as well is I'm an identical
Oh,
twin. And
wow.
so there's a copy of me out there in the wild world. And it's just interesting because it really uniquely conditioned me in my understanding of the world where I am competitive enough that I want to win, but not at the cost of people around me losing. Like I always grew up wanting my twin and I to win as much, like the same. So anywhere I'm at, like I want to make sure everybody around me is winning as much as I do. And I just find that kind of unique.
That is fantastic. And here's something surprising about me. My wife is a quadruplet. Now, not identical,
A
thank goodness,
quadruplet.
but she is actually a
Wow.
quadruplet. And she's probably,
Wow.
if she hears me, she's probably going to be annoyed that I'm giving the secret away. But it's always interesting at family gatherings. I am not ever going to play apples to apples with them again because they have their own like secret language that they
Yeah, it's
use,
not
and
fair.
you just
Yeah.
can't win because they all pass cards to each
No.
other that they know the other is going to get the other person. But yeah, I had never really been around folks that had a multiple twin, triplet, or quadruplet before, and then I met her and it taught me a lot.
That's a whole different world. Yeah. Just, I mean, it dictates the way that you see the world around you. So it's just, I mean, everybody has different situations too, whether you have siblings, no siblings or not. But nonetheless, I'm gonna have to, man, that's very interesting because I've only known a handful of quadruplets as well, and that's next level. So that's very cool.
In fact, the first time that she told me that, it was like before we were dating. I kind of was like, oh, yeah, right, sure. And she's like, no, I can
Sure,
get a
yeah.
newspaper article and prove it to you because they put it in the newspaper.
It's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah, it really was. Well, um, so she was not born in St. Louis, so you can't look that up here in St. Louis. And I was a
Mhm,
transplant here too. I moved here when I was a kid because of the
mhm.
military. Yeah, we moved to the Air Force Base, and then we just kind of wound up
Yep.
here. But we're talking about the St. Louis area, and tell me a little bit about how you came to live and work in the St. Louis area.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, the same. So I was born in Peoria, Illinois, was born to an Air Force family, moved around to a couple different places, and landed in O'Fallon, Illinois for Scott Air Force Base. And then I ended up studying international business and German studies at UMSL, so the University of Missouri St. Louis. And then my main goal was actually to go to Germany and just really leave the USA, to be honest. And so I succeeded in that. And from 2021 to 2023, I was a junior US ambassador for the United States and worked and studied in Germany, after which I got a job there and stayed there and worked in e-commerce. And then for a lot of reasons, mostly, family, friends, native culture, all the classics, I came back to the US in 2023, I suppose, and St. Louis is just what I knew. It's what I grew up around. It's where I studied. I could go other places, but I came back to the USA to be on in my stomping grounds, to be around familiar territory. So I just came back to St. Louis. I've been back here about just around 2 years now, and I'm finally like actually feeling settled back in. So it's nice to be back home.
I never get to ask this question because I grew up in the Metro East. What high school did you
Mhm.
go to? Did you go to O'Fallon?
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
too.
Fallon
I did
Township
too.
High
They're
School.
both
Did you?
Panthers. That's crazy.
Very cool. Yeah, go Panthers. Very cool.
And
Yeah.
my girlfriend in high school, not my wife, but someone else,
Mhm.
lived in Germany because the Air Force moves people back and forth to Germany quite a bit. And
Right.
we were
Yeah, I
in
got
grade
that question a
school. She
lot.
moved to Germany, and then she came back, and we were dating in high school. So
Very cool. Man, what are the odds? We
yeah,
have a lot more in common than I imagined. Very
it's
nice.
pretty crazy. Well, what is something about St. Louis that you wish people knew? You've been all over the world, so I'm sure you've got some reflections on what this community has to offer.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Would like people to know how much opportunity there actually is. And I mean, opportunity almost seems like that almost makes it sound like there is a lack of things happening, but there is the availability to make them happen, where that is also true, but more so, there's almost a critical mass of resources and interest, and I guess I'll just use the word opportunity again,
Yeah,
where there is plenty that can be done in any field, in any area of interest, and enough competition to really like push you along and make you innovate, but not too much to suffocate you. And it's a good size, it's a good location to give you the things you need without being like front of mind and make everybody aware of it. And so that's why, it's kind of slept on by a lot of people. But I think that there's a lot more here to do and to take advantage of than people really know about worldwide.
that's very true. I agree. And, even the opportunity angle, I mean, because it's so affordable to live here, you can take a lot more
Yes,
risks because you're not worried as much about having to pay a
exactly.
$1 million mortgage or something. So you can try new things and get new skills, and that really can advance you in a lot of ways.
100%. Yeah. And, it was interesting because there was a parallel between that and my experience in Germany that I always refer back to in my brain, where when I went there on the ambassadorship program, you were randomly allocated to a different city across the entire country. And everybody wants to go to Berlin. Everybody wants to go to Frankfurt and Munich and the big cities. And I landed in a city called Saarbrücken, which is right on the French and German border, and it's really funny because it's very, very similar to St. Louis for the size of the city relative to the rest of like major cities in the country. And it was the exact same experience where I landed there and I was like, oh, it's not going to be as cool as Berlin or as cool as XYZ. And it totally was. There's always something to do if you just look for it. Absolutely.
And plus, if you got tired of German food, there was probably good French food to have there too, right?
There actually was, of course. Yeah, it was phenomenal.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about what you get to do now in your day job, and that is SEO. And I can see you're getting ready.
SEO.
So before I take this any further, because this is
Mhm.
kind of a buzzy word, right? I want to have you start off by giving us a quick overview of what SEO actually is and how it's used in marketing, because it's one of those buzzwords that salespeople just love to throw around, but I don't think a lot of people
Right.
actually understand what it's really used for. So here you go. Educate us.
Yeah. Happy to, yeah, because especially there's every guru in the world, and they'll just hop online and say, "Here's how you can make 1,000 gazillion dollars doing SEO for yourself." But SEO is simply SEO is search engine optimization, and it's most commonly refers to the big search engines of Google and Bing, used to be Yahoo and other things, right? It applies to much more than that, where you are simply optimizing content to be found in search engines, which can be Amazon, which can be YouTube, which can be any social media. All of that falls under optimizing content to be found for search engines. And my specialty, my focus is on traditional search engines, quote unquote, of primarily Google and then also Bing. And yeah, it's to the point, it's simply optimizing technical things and content that is created in a digital online form to be found in search engines. Very plain and simple. No fluff, nothing magical, nothing crazy about it.
Well, and it's so important because, I do focus groups all the time and interviews all the time with people. And you ask them, where do you go for information? And 80%, 90% of the time, depending on the study, they'll say Google, or they'll,
Yeah,
if
sure.
they're looking for reviews, they'll say Amazon. So they have to be able to find that content because that's where they're looking for it. And if you have it and it's buried on the third or fourth page of the results, they're never going to see it. So
Just doesn't exist. Yeah,
yeah, so the
exactly.
optimization is important, even just from a point of view of trying to get information in people's hands, because that's
Mhm.
where they're looking for it, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because I'm sure you know better than anyone, you'll see studies where more and more each year, especially with younger demographics, people use social media and YouTube to literally search for things and find answers. So it's interesting to see the digital landscape of tools and these social platforms begin to evolve, where before, you might try to focus on posting a YouTube video that is clear to the point and has all the information people need. And surely if you build it, they will come. But you really need to make sure you're optimizing on every platform as much as possible.
I was stunned years ago when someone told me YouTube was actually the number two search engine, and
Yeah.
it made sense when I thought about it. But I was thinking Yahoo or Bing or something like that. And they're like, no, 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 YouTube, way
Yep.
more important than either of those.
Hmm. Very true. Yep.
Well, elephant in the room time is SEO dead because we've had all these advances in AI and SEO is suddenly sounding a lot less sexy than it did a couple of years ago, right? So is it a
Hmm.
promotional channel of the past?
I hate to break it to you, it is dead, is what I would say. It was not absolutely completely alive. That
Mm.
is what everybody has said for pretty much every major Google update, every major technological change. And it's very interesting because I stepped into SEO about a year ago now. And so I've known, like, seriously into it. I've known about it and I've done small things with it, but I've been working professionally in SEO for 1 year and have been just consuming everything there is about it. And it could be argued that I came into it at the worst time possible with AI tools becoming so prevalent. And I took a calculated risk and decided if it would be worth it to pursue SEO from my situation in life. Because before I seriously stepped into this, I even thought the same thing. You hear it everywhere that things change so much and there's so much spam and there's so much competition that it's surely impossible to even be successful with SEO anymore. Like, focus your dollars on where you have clear attribution, like paid ads, for example. But that's just not true. There really is a lot of value behind search engine optimization, even just in traditional search engines. Because if you just look at the numbers of traffic that exists, like we're saying, with how people go to Google to search for things, search behavior is changing a lot, especially looking at longer tail keywords with people having very specific questions. And then also AI tools stealing traffic, or quote unquote stealing traffic, because of zero-click searches. There's a lot of things changing, but it doesn't make it less valuable, to be honest.
I was at a museum not too long ago and there was a dinosaur exhibit, and one of the guides there basically said, dinosaurs aren't really dead. They just evolved into birds. They're still around. They're just different. And I thought that was such a
Right.
cool analogy because, I get told all the time, I'm a full service marketing research agency, right? I get told all the
Mhm.
time, oh, you're a dinosaur. You guys are done. AI is going to replace you if nothing else already has. And I just keep thinking, well, I'm still getting paid. I'm still here. People are
Yeah.
still hiring me. Obviously I'm not dead yet. And I kind of feel the same way about a lot of technology that, it comes in and it threatens to replace everything that we do. And yet it really doesn't, because we still need a lot of these activities. We still need a lot of these skills. We just need to maybe think about them a little bit differently. And I kind of wonder if
Mhm.
SEO is kind of heading into that space now where it was the sexy buzzword and now it's not, but it still is really valuable and necessary. So we still have to think about it
Mhm.
in terms of what are we going to do with it now that AI can do some of what it does, but it still can't do all of what it does.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel that I've had a pretty accurate perspective of it from the get-go, where my goal is to focus on the strategic aspect of it. Because especially, like we've all seen with any technology jobs, especially with software development and programming, coding, anything, executive functions can be done a lot by AI. And like, I don't really even know how to code very much, but I code quite a bit using AI tools. And so those elements of jobs like that have been gobbled up by AI and will continue to be less valuable, quote unquote. So the value of SEO, for example, won't change. But from an employee aspect, the low hanging fruit of just tactical daily things does become less valuable because tools can do them better.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned this phrase zero click searches, and I'd like to
Hmm.
talk about those a little bit. I did a video on these back or over the holidays, and I don't think anybody saw because it was the holidays, but
Sure.
I cited them as one of the emerging trends of this year because everything I've been reading, they really are. So tell me a little bit about them and how they're affecting you.
Yeah, so luckily, so actually I didn't even show. I work with Timmerman Group, by the way.
Okay.
Shouts out to them. And we work with a variety of businesses, but a lot of our clients are service businesses, and so they're focused on getting leads in the door. And I say this as context because zero click searches have to do with a search that simply results in no click through to a website because content is being summarized and shared in mostly Google's AI overview. Or if you're using a tool like ChatGPT or Claude, you're simply getting the information in that tool that is being summarized from content that's being pulled from the internet, and then people don't need to be guided anywhere. And so it is interesting how it affects our clients because traditionally you want to focus on transactional keywords. You want to focus on bottom of the funnel keywords that you want to rank for. So people are landing right at the end of their customer journey, and you're right there, like, come on in, be a lead for us, right? And we have been turning our sites more, not more to, but it is equally as important to pay mind to top of funnel informational searches and varieties of content. So you are in multiple different sources of information that AI tools are pulling from, because it seems that the way to be found is evolving more from just ranking first in the search engine result page and being the first link on Google. That's incredibly valuable. But if those clicks just aren't going to the first link anymore and people are just looking and using their eyes, it becomes much more about brand awareness and then also putting your information out everywhere so that when answers are being summarized in AI tools, that the sources of information they're pulling from are always pulling bits and pieces of your information.
Yeah, and I mean I've seen it. I um, earlier last year heard that somebody had actually found us through ChatGPT, which was
Yeah,
amazing to me because I didn't realize that my firm placed in there at all. We never placed in Google very high. And so I went in there
sure.
to look to see what it was recommending, and it was recommending my firm as one of the top 5 choices in St. Louis, which was great. But
Nice.
even
Nice.
weirder were 3 of the other choices weren't even in business anymore. So
Yeah,
um,
and that's the thing, it's not perfect at all,
yeah.
yeah.
And I realized that it was relying a lot on its training data and its historical data. And I
Mhm.
thought, this is going to really benefit brands that have been around and content that's been around because it's going to be in the training data for all these models a lot longer than any of the more recent information. And so it'll probably show up a lot more. So I
Mhm.
do see that as a game changer in a lot of ways for people that have been around and that have things up. But I also see that as a strategy and an opportunity to, try to find ways to get yourself embedded in the models in a way that you might not have
Yeah,
tried with SEO.
exactly, yeah. No, I remember us touching on that a bit, and
Mhm.
I agree too, because the big thing now is, it's still experimentation phase, like, even tools that are tracking AI search visibility are like, there is no definitive answer about how to even quantify and qualify visibility, and so it'll be interesting going forward to see exactly how you can maximize your visibility in any tool. I agree.
Yeah, I think so too. And just kind of trying to anticipate if people are going to use zero click, what are the things that they're most commonly going to look for, and am I positioning myself for that, or am I getting left out because I'm just not I'm not saying the right words to get the chatbot to think that I'm that kind of provider for whatever it is they're looking for. So
Right, absolutely, yeah.
well, SEO, when I think of SEO, I think about it very old fashioned way of just like putting a lot of
Mm.
different information in the metadata and a lot of words that you want the search engine to pick up. And I know it's way more than that. So if I wanted to actually get started in SEO and learn how to do it properly and not just, try to gamify the system with, a few keywords, how would I get started? What would I do to really learn this skill?
Yeah, so you'll be sharing some resources that I shared with you that in my own learning journey are exactly how I've learned, and they're the best resources because I've dug through so many things. And at the end of the day, I recommend two resources that I find to be very cohesive and foundational, and that is a Foundations of SEO course by an SEO like legitimately expert named Mark Williams Cook, and then a website called I think it's learningseo.io. You have it, and
Hmm.
so they'll have access to it. But these two things are the best because, in my opinion, the best way to learn SEO is to one, understand the how what websites are made of and what they actually are. Like if I ask somebody what a website is, they might often think like it is, I don't know, code. Like if you can understand what a website is made out of, where it lives, how it is served to users, and then why users are accessing them, I feel like that is an overlooked portion that is very essential because of how technical SEO is. And then once you understand that, that was like my bedrock of understanding like demystifying how
Hmm.
the stuff actually works. And then once that actually makes sense and the ones and zeros are actually tangible things to me, then it is a matter of going through just really every resource you can, in my opinion, and then getting your hands on a website and just doing it. Because I also feel that I spent far too long just trying to learn without doing it. And you can get a domain for $10, set something up free on like literally free using WordPress
Hmm.
infrastructure, and then just learn it, just by figuring out by doing it and seeing how you rank by using free tools like Google Search Console and Google Analytics, and just getting your hands dirty. So I feel that the best way a person can learn is by accessing those two resources I recommended because they're to the point and exactly what you need, and then getting your hands on a website and just practicing.
It's so interesting because many interviews ago we had Hannah Frisch on from our local AMA
Yeah.
community, and Hannah
Mhm.
said the same thing about TikTok. She said,
Yeah.
spend some
Yeah.
time in your free time learning how to do TikTok, and then it doesn't cost you anything, and you can try it out and you can
Mhm.
learn, and just by trying, you'll get better at it. And
Oh yeah.
I love that it applies to SEO as well. And by the way, those resources that Zane was mentioning are going to be in the show notes, so be sure to check those out.
Mhm.
And that's great advice. Try it out. Just learn how to do it by picking something that you're interested in and seeing how far you can
Mhm.
rank. I love that idea.
Absolutely. I think, and of course, I think that applies to just everything in life. I think it's great here too because it is so low risk. You can break a website, and I've broken so many websites, and it's very aggravating. But worst case scenario, like I I've had to completely just nuke one or two websites before, and like, okay, that's how I learned. And now going forward, I don't have to nuke any more websites. But to me, actually, that's a good allegory with learning TikTok
Mhm.
from Hannah Frisch because I find it harder to do things like that because that is me in front of a camera or something, and that can be a lot more risky feelings. So yeah, just if you want to learn SEO, just practice, especially if you have a real web property. If you have a website for your company that you're trying to learn with, you can do it in low risk ways. Make a new page that's not your home page and it's just sitting somewhere and try to rank it, see what happens.
I love it. I love it. Well, here in St. Louis, we've got a lot of businesses that are either trying to serve our region or which are hoping to break
Hmm.
out of the Midwest into that broader market, nationally or,
Hmm.
in terms of our hemisphere or just in terms of global markets, right? So, how can they use SEO to help them achieve that goal? And what do you think they really need to think about in terms of strategy?
So, a great question too. I really like that because I've talked with a couple different small businesses here that are small businesses on paper,
Hmm.
but they do business with people in very wide geography, right? And I feel that the most important thing is to have a very good strategy about the regions or locations that you're trying to break into, because with SEO, like traditional SEO, just normal keywords. Like if I were to try to rank for a roofing company,
Hmm.
that is quote unquote national. And all that means is that it doesn't have a geo modifier. So anywhere in the US could technically be finding you as a roofer, right? But the thing is, nobody's going to because there's like it's way too competitive and you realistically won't rank at all. So, how you could use SEO to actually expand your reach is by clearly identifying where you're trying to expand to. So then you can strategically expand to those regions because you're not going to rank for just national keywords. So you have to be able to define, let's expand to Chicago and then build a maybe a specific Chicago website, even, or at least sub pages, and then have sub pages that are each bureau of Chicago to build your local signals. And so I would say the key is to have you can have your website maintain its targeting as it is, or you could choose to modify it. But the key idea is defining where you're going to go so you can plan an effective strategy utilizing SEO around it. Because I've seen people just try to rank for everything, right? Or try to rank their actually blow up their current rankings because they're a St. Louis XYZ company, and then they get rid of the St. Louis so they can rank everywhere, and then they rank nowhere. So you just have to be careful.
Is it when you're trying to appeal to markets that don't speak English, is it important to be savvy about the language that they might use in search terms, or are there any good guidelines for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, number one, so actually in Germany, I worked at a German e-commerce firm that had online stores in 9 different countries, and they hired me because they didn't have any native English speakers. So they hired me to be the e-commerce manager for their UK store. And it was very valuable because they would translate things to English, but they would miss the meaning, right? Or use the wrong term that was just like slightly off. And so, as far as SEO goes, yes, it's very important to use the native language as much as possible. It's possible to rank without it, but if there's any sort of competition, it's probably not going to go very well. And then, when using the native language, it's very valuable to use somebody that knows what they're talking about. So, you're actually translating things and targeting things effectively.
I think that's really interesting. And, that's an area too where I know a lot of folks are like, oh, I could just use AI to do that. Well, you
Nah,
could, but it's probably not going to be anywhere near as good as using a native speaker because AI has a kind of particular choice of words and cadence and things that
yeah,
aren't natural. They're pseudo natural, and it may not be able to do searching, or replicate search terms the way that an actual person would search in a way you could really use it and actually rank in anything that was going to get you people to click through and actually find you. So I grow concerned about over reliance on AI for things like that when native speakers are
right.
so easy to find.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And especially then on like the further downstream area of that, like if you can identify keywords and then there's issues with people using AI to then generate the content to hopefully rank for those keywords, and
Mhm.
then they're just missing they're not hitting the search intent of why people are actually searching those terms because AI is just doing its best, you know? So yeah, definitely it's important to actually strategically approach it rather than just relying on AI too much. And don't get me wrong, I use AI tools a lot. They're
Mhm.
incredibly valuable, but you need a very good QA process as well.
Well, and I'm to the point where if I get to something and it looks like AI wrote it, I just go back and try to find another
Yeah,
search result because the phrasings and the cadence, like AI loves to repeat things 3 times in 3 different ways, or it likes to put word period word period word period or things
yeah.
like that, and it
It's not
becomes
it's not
clear.
this, it's that. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just you realize I'm not getting any real information here. I'm just getting, somebody prompted a AI script to kind of capture my click. Well, they got it, but I'm not going to stay here for information. Well,
Sure. Yep.
I have told you, like I said at the beginning, that you really impressed me with your willingness to step up and be a resource,
Mhm,
not just on SEO, but and that's what you do, of course, but on marketing
mhm,
itself. So I
mhm,
appreciate that because what we do in marketing is always changing. And I
mhm.
think I've told you, like when I went to school back in 2008, most of the skills I learned in marketing, they're fundamental. Don't get me wrong, but we don't really use them
Mhm.
anymore. Things have
Right,
changed a
yeah.
lot. So I think that's the constant rule of marketing, and pretty much everybody that I talk to on this show or in networking events or anything like that, we're all doing marketing in really, really different ways. So,
Mhm.
what are some ways that we can all work on keeping our skills sharp and our understanding current when it comes to marketing and related topics like SEO?
I feel that first and foremost, what has benefited me the most, and I would like to do a lot more. I'm not, I would like to do better, to be honest, is talking to people and having conversations like this because you can only realistically do so much. And there's a reason that we all specialize, at least somewhat, because there's not enough time or effort in the world to understand everything. And even marketing itself is such a fragmented industry that even our Timmerman group, we have, PPC people, we have design people, we have SEO people. And in, or like the flip side of the same coin as being willing to talk to people, I would say be just consistently curious. I think that's generally a great tip in life because that's how you just grow and understand anything you want to do. But if you can bring value by understanding your niche and then leverage that to help to have other people support you by supporting them, like it's pretty hard to fail, I would say, in any area of life.
And I think it's important. One of the reasons that we like to talk about what we do in our jobs is so we can share the knowledge of how things are changing and what we're doing. But I think it's also so that we can affirm that if there's a better way to do it, that we hear about it and that we know about it. And
Totally,
if you
totally.
talk about what you do and somebody comes up to you afterwards and says, "Hey, I know something way different you could do that. It's actually more efficient. That's going
Mhm,
to help you." That that helps us to all sharpen each other and to become better at what we're doing. And that's part of the practice, right? I mean, gosh,
mhm,
10, 20 years ago, if you were talking to people about social media, for example, they were thinking, Facebook or MySpace, and now it means so many
mhm.
different things. If you're talking about influencers, I mean, that was a meaningless term, 10 or 20 years ago to a lot of
Right.
people. And now it's a key part of a lot of marketing. And of course, AI, that really didn't mean much to anybody before, the last few years. And now it is probably the number one topic at every conference that you go to. So
Mhm.
we definitely have to be thinking ahead and kind of finding ways to refine our understanding and knowledge, but also not getting too attached to one thing that we do at any given time because it may change and we may have to try something else.
Yeah, yeah, that's an especially good point, and that is, I feel like something I feel I do naturally. And you might feel this too because coming from a military family, I don't know if you moved around a lot, but I just got used to like change being the primary constant, and I think that fits very well with everything that marketing is because especially digital marketing, things just evolve so fast, and you have to be ready to get, I would say, comfortable. I was going to say good, but
Mm-hmm.
not even good, but just become comfortable with new technology and new methods, and then maintain the foundation of marketing fundamentals and just continue forward because otherwise it is easy to get left behind without even realizing it, I suppose.
Well, and at the end of the day, it's all about strategy, right? I mean, using these marketing tools as tactics to help us to achieve our goals and not to get so hung up on
Right.
the tactics themselves.
Exactly, yes, exactly, and I feel like that is the only, not the only way, but, like, a primary way to get left behind, for lack of a better term, right? If you think of something as the thing you need to be doing rather than a means to an end, then life will move on nonetheless.
We were watching Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the show on Disney Plus,
Yeah.
and I was
Mhm.
laughing because the kids are training using like Spartan shields and swords, and I was like, "We live in 2026. Don't they have like a Greek mythology equivalent of a gun somewhere? Because those shields and swords aren't going to get you too far in this day and age.
Yeah.
You have to change and evolve, right?" So
Yeah, but it looks cool, it looks
mhm.
cool, right?
It looks cool and it's useless. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Zane, it's been great talking with you, and
Yeah, you too.
again, I always appreciate any chance we get to converse, but I like
Same.
to end every show with asking our guests if they have anything they want to plug. We are marketers. We have to plug things. That's part of our job.
Yep.
So here's your chance. What would you like to plug?
Yeah, I would say two things that are one beneficial to, I guess, really everything beneficial to everyone, I should say. So, like I said, I work for Timmerman Group. I'm an SEO specialist there. We do full service marketing, primarily SEO, PPC, web design, and social media. So, if you want help and or even just want some free advice about any marketing problems you have, feel free to reach out to me, Rob Timmerman, or anyone. And then also something that I'll send you for the show notes, the resources, Sean, is something I forgot to mention, a website I have called basicsofmarketing.com. To the point, and it's from my own journey into marketing, I guess now probably 4 years ago, I'd say, where I could not find one definitive resource that answered the question, what is marketing? And so I made a website to answer that and help other people at the very beginning of their journey just define what is it, what are the rough parts of it, and where can you go from there. So yeah, basicsofmarketing.com. It's not perfect, but it'll help you get somewhere for sure.
Not perfect is quite all right. A lot of times good enough is
Hmm.
all we really need, right? And I'm sure it's
Exactly. Yep.
better than good enough. So
Yeah, exactly.
thanks for sharing, and we'll put that in the show notes. And of course, we'll put your contact information as well. If anyone would like to reach out
Yeah,
to you to
please.
learn more about SEO or any of the other topics we discussed, I'm sure that you would be happy to help them out. And I
Absolutely.
just want to say thanks so much for being on Marketing Gateways, and we've really enjoyed having you. And
Yeah.
I hope that we can have you on again sometime to talk about some other topics.
Sure. No, thank you for the time. It's been a pleasure being here and talking about all this, and it helps me as much as it helps you and the viewers. So thank you.
Wow. Oh man, I love doing these interviews. They are so much fun. And I hope you had a great time listening to Zane as well, because I just feel like I got a class in SEO and I am excited to go check out those resources now and take a look and see if I can learn more about how to do this. So thank you, Zane. We really appreciate you being on. And I told him I hope that we can have him back on because I know he knows a lot about many other topics and love to have him come on and talk about those as well. But on that note, we are always looking for more guests. And especially if you're here in the St. Louis area or in the Midwest, we would love to have you on the show. So please, if you're interested, let us know and we'll see about having you on. And if you know anybody too, please send them our way because I'd love to do more interviews like these. I learned so much. I hope you're learning a lot and we look forward to it. So thank you so much for listening. I am Sean in St. Louis. This has been the Marketing Gateway. We'll see you next time.